This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let's go. Get on your mark, let's go. What you waiting for? There's so much more. The future's yours. Let go, explore. It's yours for sure. Same but me with fear. So to God I stay near. I keep my hand to the plow. There's no turning back now. My future look bleak. I decided to see. He said follow me. On the journey you'll see. Get on your mark, let's go. What you waiting for? There's so much more.
It's Saturday, y'all. And you know what that means. It's time for Lessons from the Journey Live. I'm your host, Sean L. Brown, and I am super excited for another Saturday with y'all to share tips, tricks, and nuggets to help you do what? Master the game of life and live well together. And you know what today? I have a very special guest with us today, someone that has helped me tremendously. Let me bring her into the studio real quick before I introduce her. What up, Carlene? And welcome to the Lessons from the Journey Live studio. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for
You
having
are
me.
amazing, and I'm so happy to have you here. I believe that what you do is about to transform the way we do life and healing. So, can you tell the people what you do? What's a modern day medicine woman?
So modern day medicine woman is a term. I mean, I think it's been around for a while, but it was a lot of people were asking me like, what do you do? What is this? And my response was, well, I'm kind of like a modern day medicine woman. So I bring ancient practices and traditions together with modern day modalities, modern day healing techniques, things like healing PTSD, trauma, a lot of things that are stored in the body, inner child work. I'm also a spiritual guide. So I combine that along with breath work and somatics and nervous system regulation with healing techniques that have been around for thousands of years that our ancestors were doing and in a lot of places still continue to do. On the quiet, I guess, in the DL, and then also outside of our country, it's more common to see uh, a medicine woman or a medicine man, if you will.
Absolutely. I mean, I can completely concur with what you're saying. So let me ask you I want to ask you a couple questions. So I am a sold out lover and follower of Jesus. And I know that there's a lot of people who follow Jesus or are Christians who would say what you do is witchcraft. It's
Mm-hmm.
not God. It is demonic. It's evil. What do you say? What says you to that?
Um, I hear this a lot. I get it a lot. It's not something that I think I used to stay in the shadows a little bit because of that. Of what if I get called this, or what if people think of this, and I kind of don't give a fuck anymore. Sorry, I don't know if we can say that on air, but yeah, I've experienced so many things that a lot of people probably wouldn't believe. And I've seen so many things within my own journey in the last 10 to 15 years and these practices in my own spiritual space that I'm very open to all ways of getting to the divine and how that is for you. And what that is for you. If that's going outside and hugging a tree, if that's walking into a church, if that's, going into a sauna and sweating, if that's lighting a fire and praying over a fire. Um, it really just depends on what works for you and what your connection to what your source of divine is. And for me, it's many modalities, and it's many, I guess, in many traditions, there's one God, there's lots of gods, there's different, agnostics believe in a lot of many gods, and Christians believe in one God. But to me, at the end of the day, and whatever it is for you and how your healing journey is going, that's none of my business other than to help you find your inner light and your inner space. I'm just here as a guide to hand torch over and say this is possible.
And would you say that people are sent to you? How do they find you, right? Because
Yeah,
I feel like I was sent to you,
I feel like
and I'll
that
get into
too.
my journey with you. But would you say that? Are they
Yeah,
sent? Are you advertising? I'm like, what are
I
you
feel
on a
like
corner? How do you
I,
do
I
this?
advertise and I market and I'm out there on social media, but the majority of my work is coming through word of mouth or people who find me. Um, I'm starting to get more out there as I've gotten to a place where I really am so confident in what I'm doing and the work that is to be here, that my doors are open to whoever finds me.
Love,
Yeah,
love.
whatever that is. I have people from all walks of life, people from all different aspects of the spirituality, all the way to Christianity, to the church, from out of the church. Um, and um, I I forgot what you just asked me. I'm sorry.
Don't worry. If you forgot, that means you were done answering.
Yeah. Where am I going?
Okay, let me before I tell a little bit about my story and how I
Mhm.
got to you. I actually wasn't looking for you.
I know.
I was referred to you, right?
Mhm.
But at the time that I found you at a time I didn't even know I needed you.
Mhm.
So some things had been occurring the week before, and I did not understand that I was about to embark on some deeply rooted inner child work.
Mhm.
So in the days, which I don't even know if I've ever shared this with you, and I want everybody to know, one, I don't know her. I met her one time at the healing circle. Okay. So when you
In
hear
here.
my story and what happened, I don't know her. It's after one time at the healing circle. Let me say this second to you, but very, very clearly. I love Jesus. I'm sold out. If he tell me stand, I stand. He tell me sit, I sit. I love Jesus. I like the whole thing. I know he sent me here based on what happened at this particular event. I know I was sent. But what I want to preface this with, everybody that's listening, you should be in prayer for yourself. Find out what is right for your spirit, your body, your journey, and then make the choices for yourself. Don't let what I say and do, don't let what Carlene says or do, or anybody say or do. You have your advisors and the people that God or whoever, whatever you call God, whatever it is for you, trust your situation and where you're being led, and then make your decisions in the light.
Mhm.
Everybody got that? So don't write me, because I told you this what I do.
Mhm.
You got to do what's right for you. Now on to my story. So my general, Renee, hooked this whole healing circle up. But before I got there, I started going through, I was actually writing and about to record a song that's coming out on my EP called Captive. Shawnee's little girl, Shawnee's inner world.
Which, by the way, I just found out right now that you sing when the opening started. I
Oh,
did
you
not.
did see? As I said, she doesn't know. She has
I
no
don't
idea.
know anything. I just showed up.
She just showed up. So I was going to record Captive on Monday, and I had an encounter on Sunday with my father that literally sent me reeling. Then on Monday, I had Monday evening, I had this a similar experience with my mother. Then I went and recorded this song where my inner child dies at the end. I mean, it literally ends with a like that, right? So I have to record that song on Monday. And then it's kind of like leading up to getting to the healing circle. It was event after event after event. I had a panic attack. I broke out in tears. It was like reverting back to days that I had long since squashed and pushed down. Well, when I got to the healing, let me go back a little bit. About 3 weeks before the healing circle, I was led in my quiet time to write down the names of my father figures. And I did that. I wrote their names down. And next to each one of the father figures, I wrote what they meant or represented. So I have what I call my third dad, Daddy 3, and his name is Bob, Daddy Bob, Robert W. Barnes. He's passed away. Next to Bob's name, what I wrote down is he was always there. He was just always there for me. He showed up. He was like help, and he was always there. Back to this week. The week was so difficult, and what I was feeling was that I have no parents. I have nobody who loves me. I was confused about my relationship with my mom. I'm about to become a grandmother. How do I become a grandmother when I don't even feel like a whole person? I just felt very, very lost, very hurt, and very confused. Then I walk into the healing circle. As we're sitting in the circle, Carlene says, "Does anybody know a Bob?" Just like that. "Does anybody know a Bob?" And I'm like, that would be me. I just put my hand up. That would be me. And she's like, "Because he wants me to tell you he's here." And I'm like, in my mind, she doesn't know this. I don't know this lady. I'm like, oh my God, I just wrote that down, that he's always here. And she said it's like he's pestering me to say this. Now, what you have to know about Bob is he is a pest. He was pesty. I'm like, if he wanted something, it was getting done, and he would not let it die. I mean, literally, I've seen him do some miraculous things that you would think people couldn't do, but Bob could. So when she said that, I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. That's 110% Bob. And when she said he's coming, he wanted to let you know he's here, that made sense to me too, because the way I was feeling on the inside was I have nobody who loves me. Now, moving on into the breath work and the meditation part of it, my left leg shot up in the air on its own in a severe cramp. It was just straight up in the air like this. And I'm like, screaming, right? In discomfort. Carlene comes over and she bends down. Now here's where the Bob thing was freaky, but this was really freaky. She bent down over me, and in my ear, she whispered, "You have to let your mother go." The reason that was such a big deal was because I had a soul tie with my mother, where a belief system that it was up to me to take care of her. It was like the roles, like a Freaky Friday, had somehow gotten flipped. And I was stuck in this very weird relational pool that I couldn't get out of. And I always felt this guilt and fear and anxiety and a lack of esteem and worth. When Carlene rubbed out the cramp, she rubbed it out 3 different times. I screamed, I think the loudest I've ever screamed in public. And when I rolled over, then I heard the Holy Spirit talking to me. And what he said changed my life. And what he said to me was, your mother couldn't love you. She couldn't. The traumas that she faced would not allow her to be able to love you in the way that you needed to be loved. And I had to accept that as truth. And I knew it was truth in my spirit. And what I found myself saying, rolled over saying, is, I don't feel like a person. I don't feel like I'm real. I don't feel like I'm anyone. But what I didn't know at that time, that was my shadow self. That was the inner child that I pretty much locked in a closet as a little kid, put on a whole bunch of personas on top of her, and I moved out and left her in the closet, but I cannot shine as my whole self without her integration. But I can't integrate the wounded. I have to integrate her healed. So, Carlene, can you please give insight to my experience?
Yeah. That one was a pretty wild one. And so I'll just start with our bodies hold everything we've ever been through, whether we remember it consciously or not. So the body, its job is to protect you, whether most of the time it may feel like it's not protecting you, but that's its job. So when things happen, any type of trauma, and trauma is different for everyone. So my trauma is going to be different than your trauma versus, so and so over there and so over there. All trauma gets stored in the body, and if we don't move it, or if we don't tune into it, it can show up and start to show up in ailments. So like things like hip pain, things like that cramp in your back that won't go away, and then it can start to turn into disease, or even like arthritis, or like other cancers, like things like that start to get really big, are unhealed things stuck in the body that the body's trying to say, hey, we need to look at this. And it's a pretty outrageous thing to think of, because our society doesn't talk a lot about this, right? It wants to put you on meds, they want you to do surgeries, they want all these other things to happen. And also, modern science doesn't really support these traditional teachings. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. It can go
I
into
love it.
more of detail if you pay attention to that. And then, so what I know things. I've always known things. It's called I think it's clairsentient, where you just know things. It's my connection. I'm an open channel to divine, to God, to source. And when we're in these spaces, things just come to me that I know I'm supposed to say. So when you're like, well, why'd you know how to say that? Or that was about my mom. I'm like, well, I personally didn't, but you're open to what we were doing, and you have your own spiritual connection to God. So I hear it. Right. And what personally was happening with you is that's what with breath work, we're going into the nervous system, and we're releasing a lot of stuff somatically in the subconscious space. And what I also do is I also work with the divine, with spirits, different, like if we want to talk about spirits, meaning not like people spirits, but like plant spirits. Everything has energy, everything has a spirit, right? Just like we do, we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And I work with the land. So I create safe space for us before you guys even walk in, that we're in a container, much like church. I've prayed, I've opened the space to welcome you guys there, that it is held, and that whatever happens, that only good can come through. And what I mean by that is I have a relationship with Jesus as well. I have a relationship with God. And so I open space in that way. And by doing that, I'm able to tune into to the bodies of people that are there. And so with you, what that specifically was you had all these things preparing you to come. And then when we went into the subconscious, the body was like, this is what it is. Like, this is what needs to be released. And that's why your leg went up. It's all this stuff that's being stored in the hip. In the hips, but mainly your leg. And we talked about it, and I think that was more around like your connection to mom, but also like how you're supporting yourself, how you're standing tall, how you're holding yourself up, that between the hips and the knee, like you need your hip and your knee to stand, and your leg, right? And it was like your whole leg, and we had to move a bunch of stuff out of there. And so that's the best way with English that I can, like, not that I don't speak another language, but like put it to sentences, that there's so much outside of what we've been conditioned to believe around our bodies and our mind and our souls, that when we do things on purpose, like breathe or go into the shadow, like that's a literal term. It's called shadow work.
Mm-hmm.
Where we honor these things, these spaces where wounds live. And it can be a scary place, but it's also very needed, because for you specifically, it's like these wounded parts needed to be heard. Like you shoved her in a closet. We need to call her back, and we need to allow her to be seen. We need to allow her to be heard, and let her know that her feelings matter. And oftentimes it's just feeling it one time. It's just letting letting her come forward, and those parts, I mean, that gets into parts work and therapy. I like to call it different versions of ourselves, because those versions all still exist within us, and they continue to. It's when you play, that's who's coming out. When, when you get ecstatic and we're, belly laughing to the point of, with your sisters, where you're like on the floor belly laughing, that's little you remembering what that's like to be in pure joy, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what was happening, was we were releasing very old parts, and deep parts that needed to come forward to be released. Yeah.
I want to ask this question. It's really in my spirit, because what I'm finding too. So let me just talk about my illnesses a little bit. You
Mm-hmm.
talked about illnesses and body keeping the score. So I had 3 brain surgeries. I had to learn how to walk and talk, all of that all over again. I've had infections, insidious infections that couldn't heal, wouldn't heal. Everything was traumatic for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've had stage 3 triple negative breast cancer, 25-hour double mastectomy. I went blind after the double mastectomy. Every nutrient in my body was in the negative. I had vulva cancer. I had a partial vulvectomy. And before I found out about the vulva cancer, I had started having a problem, but we didn't know what it was. I went to go see another doctor, and he
Mm-hmm.
happened to be from the Middle East somewhere. And he grabbed my chair and brought me towards him. You know how they have that little wheelie
Yeah.
chair, little stool? And he said, "Mrs. Brown, I don't know what's going on with you or on the inside of you, but if you don't get your inner world right, you're not going to be with us much longer."
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably about 4 to 5 weeks after that that I would discover that I had vulva cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went for the referral, I was referred to a vulva specialist. When I went there, she was like, "It looks like vulva cancer, but you're so young. That can't possibly be. I've never seen it in somebody your age." Well, that's what it was. And a year later,
Mm-hmm.
I had triple negative breast cancer. So it was back to back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in the triple negative breast cancer surgery, they said I had gas on my chest. My wounds didn't heal. I went blind. I mean, it was just crazy and chaotic and super, super hard. But I couldn't help but think about what the doctor told me.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get your inner world right, you're not going to be here much longer. You mentioned Dr. I think his name is Besseldorf, who wrote Body Keeps the
Oh,
Score.
mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't remember his name. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. How important was that book for you? How important was that
It's
read?
extremely important, because um, breath I started reading it when I was starting to get into breath work. And breath work was something I had a war with in the beginning. I'm like, if you asked me 5 years ago that's would be a major part of my practice now, I'd probably laugh at you, because I hated breath work. Now I love it, but I did not like it. And so reading that book, and then also getting into my studies around what breathwork's capable of, and understanding what's happening with the body, as well as what can happen when we breathe on purpose. And I say breathe on purpose because it's conscious breathing. It's a type of breath work on purpose that we're doing, where it's not just we're sitting together and breathing like we normally do. It began to show me and open a door, to body work for me that I hadn't fully experienced. And at the same time I was reading that, I was down in South America, in Guatemala, studying with the midwives, in Mayan womb massage. So really, that's really where I started to see, what I was reading and what I was seeing in breathwork, in the place of women, doing body work on wombs, on the body, and seeing huge, massive, transformations, releases happening. Because the midwives down there are not just delivering babies; they're helping all women, in many ways, with womb care. Like, for instance, if you fall down, the first place you're going is finding a midwife and getting a womb massage and getting, because that's trauma, and getting things put back into place.
Mm.
So it's for they're healing things like fibroids, endometriosis, PCOS, a lot of things just through releasing things out of the body with massage. And it's all topical. It's like massage on like your whole body, which part
Yes.
of those practices I put in. That's how I knew when I saw your leg. I was like, oh, I know what this is. So
So
it's
I have a worker that I work with here in Southern California. Her name is Lupita. And she, like you, has just blown me away with what she's been able to see
mhm,
and know by touching my body,
mhm.
by working out the things. There was this one instance I was getting over a bladder infection. And so I went to get my massage. And when she got done, she was walking out so that I could change. And she goes, yeah, and you better go deal with that little bladder infection you got starting. And I'm all,
You're like, why do
well,
you do
it's
that?
not starting, it's ending. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
How
Yeah.
do you know that? How does she know that?
I think with her, like for massage, they understand the body, scientifically as well. And some masseuses are also they can read energy, you can feel energy. So I'm sure that there's things you can feel in the body. For me, I can, my hands get hot. I can literally feel heat leaving my hands on places that where there's energy or where there's things wrong, and then I tune in and I get told things. Um, and I know that sounds crazy, but um,
Yeah, not actually
no,
to me.
yeah,
No.
you know, because it
Even
happened
as
to
a
you.
guide, no, that does not sound crazy to me.
But for me personally, I can feel where things are, by heat. By my hands, I say they light up. They don't actually light up. They just get really hot in areas where there's stored energy,
Problem.
yeah, or problems, yeah.
Let me ask you this. In terms of dealing with people who have suffered severe trauma, you talked about the womb, right? Tell me what gets stored in the womb. What kind of things happen when there's trauma that gets trapped in the womb?
So it
What
could
what,
be,
what are people experiencing?
well, so like the womb is the portal of creation, right? It's a portal to life. It's also the portal for desire, for all things created, especially for women. So, we're not just to like birthing life into the world. Everything that we desire is, and I mean, the things you want to create in the world, like that's where your music's coming from, like not just by itself, but that's where that desire to create is coming from, right? This that is in the womb space. And so how trauma can get stuck is, I mean, it can get stuck anywhere in the body, but as women, we store a lot of stuff in there. And I don't like to think of trauma as like a certain time that this thing, like it is like this thing happened, right? But what's really happening is the thing happened to the body and to the subconscious, and it gets stored as energy, as like not necessarily that thing, but it's what happened to the body and to the mind because of that thing,
It's
right?
the
So
story that gets stored,
the
or the
story
story that you
the
believe.
story I don't know, I wouldn't say the story, because our story can change because of our mind, right? Your subconscious can remember something that your brain doesn't. So it's kind of like that energy, like that, yeah, I guess you want to call it a story, but like that, whatever this traumatic experience was gets locked into a place.
Mhm.
And it doesn't
That's what
really,
happened to me. It was the
yeah,
stories
right.
that got locked and trapped. And based on the story that I believed, I
So there's
started to
that's the
compile
second part.
coping mechanisms.
Yeah, so that's the second part. It's like that's why I
Okay.
didn't want to say story, is because it's the story can shift over time, depending on what you're telling yourself or what is being conditioned, or how it's being dealt with, I guess is the word we can use.
Or not dealt
Or
with.
not exactly.
Or
That's
not dealt with.
not dealt with. Yeah, and
Right.
so that's where it's not like things that are getting stuck. It's like emotions. It's feelings. It's the what we're thinking. Mostly, I would say like emotions, because those thoughts create more emotion. Those thoughts create more experiences within the body.
Let
Um,
me can I give you an example from my own playbook? And I'm just unearthing this situation
yeah.
last week. So I am going through something called 20 Days of Prayer
Mhm.
with Pastor B. She's one of my all-star brands, and she's taking me through 21 days of prayer. On day 2, I had a vision of a time that I was sexually assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, when I visualized it, I could see God and me watching the situation from outside the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And what I experienced was God was presenting me with a choice of belief systems. And not only was he presenting me with a choice of belief systems, he was showing me, one, I was always there with you.
Mm-hmm.
Two, what happened is a part of the world we live in. And three, you now have a choice of running away and going to the coping mechanism of your choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same wound. You pick the various coping mechanisms you want to put on top of it, or we can face it,
Mm-hmm.
feel it, and walk away from it.
Yeah.
Is that the process?
Essentially, yes. It's the feel. It's the having to feel it. The feelings, so talk therapy is great. However, what can happen with, and I go to therapy, I love therapy, love my therapist. But
I love it too. Love the
and I
therapist.
think it's great. However, what can happen with therapy is all we're doing is re-talking about the memory and just remembering a memory, if that makes sense. So like you're not even actually remembering the thing that
You're
happened.
not engaged
You're
with it.
remembering the memory of the last time you remembered that.
Mhm,
um,
mhm.
and you're not feeling it. In some cases you are, but with things like breath work or things like what you're describing, you have to feel it to heal it. It does need to be processed, it needs to be sat with, and it needs to be acknowledged, witnessed, and felt to let it start to move out of the body. And that's why people don't like shadow work. Like it's not, let me go sit with the stuff that I've been avoiding for 20 years, right? But I can tell you the second you do that, it's going to go way faster
It goes
than
away fast.
the
It
20.
goes away fast, but you have to face it
Mm-hmm.
and feel it before God can heal it.
Right.
Whatever we avoid cannot be healed. When they told me you have stage 3 triple negative breast cancer, I
Mm-hmm.
had to face it. Then I had to make a decision. And then I had to follow through with the treatment plan.
Right.
That's illness in the physical. And what I'm finding is it works very much the same way in the spirit. Would you agree? Am I saying it right?
Yes, I would agree with what you're saying. I think, I mean, there's in shamanism, there's spiritual sickness. There's things we have to go do that's called a soul retrieval, where you go back and part through experiences, there's parts that we call back to yourself, essentially your power, your soul, different parts that come back, right? And what you're describing is you literally there was no escaping this. I think death was the escape. It's, if I don't sit with this, one of two things are going to happen.
That's right. That's where I was. There was
So,
nowhere else to run.
yeah, and that's what I feel like. That's what God does. I call it the universal 2x4. When you get slapped in the face by a 2x4 because you're not listening to anything, and it's like, okay, you're not going to listen. I'm going to make you listen.
Yeah.
And God, your body will make you listen. Your spirit will make you listen at some point where you're just flatlined. And I mean that not in the physical. I mean like flatlined by a 2x4.
Emotionally and spiritually, you're flatlined. It
Yeah,
is
like you're on the floor, like fucking goddamn. Like, oops, sorry.
it's your mouth.
I know. I say that for a lot.
You're right. You're right. You know, what I experienced last week was excruciating. But I also felt it was excruciating for a couple reasons. It was excruciating because it was the pain that happened to me, but I also sense, and this is the conversation I am dying to have with you. I also sense there's ancestral trauma. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm African American.
Yeah, I would say.
So there was this little thing that happened in our history called the transatlantic slave trade.
Mm-hmm.
And what I sense is some of the painful traumas that I'm experiencing are actually in my DNA. It's in my fascia. So
Okay.
let's talk a little bit about what fascia is.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's talk about how traumatic ancestral problems show up in the lives of us in present day. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, so fascia is something I've just started to recently in the last couple of years start to study a little bit more, because that is essentially what the body that's what the body is where these things that we're talking about that are getting held in is in the fascia. And your fascia is like the next layer of skin, a little bit deeper, that's all over your whole body. And that's what gets held there. So things like you can find masseuses who specialize in myofascial release, and that's where they're focusing on a certain area to release trauma um, while you're on their table. And some can feel that, some can just know, some can you can walk in and you say, I think that I'm storing something here. Can we work on this? I need to get it out. And that's, I don't know if you seen any of the videos on like TikTok and stuff where similar to what I did to your leg, where you get in there pretty deep. You have to
Yes,
get in
there's
deep
a
to release.
lady that I've seen, and she just seems
She just
brutal.
gets in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's my
mhm,
I don't yeah, I love watching her stuff because it's
yeah.
so it's potent work, and that's pure, that's like physical, like visual evidence of this working in real time. Um
Mhm.
I can't go too much on fascia because it's not like I'm not totally it's not my expertise as of yet, but
Can I speak on it to you
yeah.
a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Irony, right? Sometimes I think God is preparing you for one, for what you're going to go through, and for what He's going to work out through you for other people. So when I had my son, it was a very traumatic birth. He was
Mhm.
born premature. I had all the things, right? And
Right.
then I had an infection in my bloodstream. So I had a second surgery after I had him. So I had him, then I had a blood transfusion, and then I had this infection. Well, the infection went all the way down to my fascia, which is the only reason, everybody,
They
I
knew.
even knew I had a fascia.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
Most
let's
people
start
don't.
there. Yeah. The only reason I knew that I was infected because I had had an infection that reached all the way down to the fascia. The fascia is like stockings that cover the
Yep,
entire body. It sends messages through everywhere. Your
everywhere.
feelings, your history, your story. Now let me give you some Bible, right? Because I love when Bible and science collide to
Me too.
disprove all of the crazy. Do you know the story about the wheat and the tare? And it's in the red letter. So this is Jesus talking. And when he says, look, the enemy sowed into the seed, basically evil. I sowed good seed. But what I'm going to do is don't pull up the bad seed, don't pull up the tare. Let them grow up together. And at harvest time, we will uproot and throw away the tare, and then
Mhm,
the wheat will stand on its own. So these traumas and everything that are coming up, they come up in the time that they need to come up. They're stored in the fascia. And if we're unwilling to release it, it becomes illness.
mhm,
And if you're unwilling to surrender and submit to God's treatment plan, it becomes disease that will ultimately kill you. I
mhm,
have, because of how sick I was and all of the different illnesses, I got really into studying metaphysics.
mhm.
And so I just went through every single illness I ever had metaphysically. Every single illness was directly tied to a traumatic experience that I had stored in my body and refused to release. Then, on top of that, your generational patterns,
Yep.
generational challenges that get handed down, that's a part of your responsibility too. So, now I want to say this before I go back to Carlene. Healing is a choice and a responsibility. You do not have to do the healing work. You don't have to believe anything I'm saying. You can stay exactly like you are, how you are. That is your privilege and right as a human. But if you want to be well and live well and raise children that aren't bound by your old traumas and your mama's traumas and your mama's traumas and her mama's trauma,
Mhm.
this work has to be done. It has to be done. Carlene, what happens if we choose not to do this work? What's the ramifications of it?
I mean, I feel like we just described a lot of them, right? Illness, addiction, seeking things outside of self. And what I mean by that, like anything can be an addiction. If you go to the gym, like, and that becomes an obsession, that can be an addiction. Food, and not necessarily just addiction, but things that we're trying to seek. When I say seek outside of ourselves, things that we're that people are using to avoid, right? So you can spend 20 years of your life doing that, your whole life, if you choose, and it may be pretty rough. It may not. You may spend the whole time numb, and if you that's again, like you said, your choice. But when we choose to step into this work, I mean, I have programs that are 3 months long. I see transformation in 3 months to a year, and that's deep stuff. I've seen so many things happen just in short amounts of time, but that's from people who are choosing to show up to themselves. And I don't even and we use the term like this work because it is work. It's not easy.
Yeah, this is not a cookie and punch party.
Yeah, sitting with your own shadows is not, it's not everyone's signing up to do that. But I do believe
nobody's signing up to do that. No. Nobody's like, ooh, I want to go heal my inner child.
Yeah, right. I gotta go sit with my shadow work today. But when we do choose to do that, I think we become liberated. We become liberated in self. We become liberated by everything that's been holding us back. We find where our blocks are. We find what we're actually made of, and we begin to delayer. And what I mean by delayer is all the things that society, our parents, or whoever put on us tend to be busted open, and we find out who we truly are, who we actually are, who our spirit is. And then once you're living from that space, that's a whole nother place to talk about, because
it's a whole new level. It's the next level of freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
Freedom. It's being exactly who you were supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to do in the time you're supposed to do it, right? Because a lot of our traumas cause us not to do what we're supposed to do when we're supposed to do it. We procrastinate. We're filled with anxiety. We work jobs we don't want to work. We stay in relationships we won't want to be in. And we're doing all of that because of what's stored in the body, and we can't control and make our own decisions.
Exactly. Or we're afraid to.
We're afraid to. What percentage of people do you think actually do this work to be healed? And have you seen people completely? Because the Bible says the goal is for us to be mature and complete, lacking nothing.
Right. And I think that's enlightenment, right? I think that's like that's achieving enlightenment. I think that's seeing. Ask me that again. Sorry, my brain went into like 4 ways to answer that.
I believe I asked. Sorry, I just completely left my. I was so about to say. I was like, what? What I believe I wanted to know was, what do you think? What percentage and how often do people actually choose to actually do this work?
Do this work. I think in the past it's been like 1% of the population. I think. Yeah.
World's population?
I think so. Like when you think about the amount of people who are actually choosing to sit down and choose the path of, I'm going to journal today, or I'm going to stare at the mirror in my eyeballs and tell myself I love myself, but also I forgive you for doing X, Y, and Z, or, going into breath work, knowing that you're about to have a traumatic experience because you're about to release something from 10 years ago. Most people aren't doing that. I would say it's kind of like 1%. Is that growing now? I think yes. I think
it's going to have to.
Expanding, and it is because our world is. I like to think of it it's uprooting. It's in a massive shadow in itself. Where we're at just in the world. If you think about when you have to transplant a tree, what happens? You have to deroot it. You have to cause chaos. In order to put it into a new space to grow. And so now more and more people are awakening to their trauma. More and more people are being open to that, the science that's coming out around nervous system regulation, around overstress, what happens when you have burnout, what happens when you're living in a body that's stuck in trauma. or trauma response, you know? Um, I think more people are open to seeing what happens, because now, along with that, we have things like this, like you and I can have this conversation on a platform that's now telling people about things. So I think in our modern day, we can still, word gets around like it used to in the old days, but at a much faster pace, right? I have you at my fingertips. I can ask questions. I can, if I want to know something, I can find out today how to do that thing that I want to know, or find information on it. So I think more and more people are awakening to the idea that we can heal we are our own healers. Everything we need is within us. It's just up
Yeah,
to us.
that's what I'm finding.
Yeah.
That's what I'm finding. And what was really interesting about connecting with LaShawn, right? Because LaShawn, when I say I threw her in a closet, was like, shut up. I don't ever want to talk to you again. Sean L. Brown is taking the stage. She's
Mhm.
competent. You're dumb, right? But what I didn't realize, and I have a new EP coming out, and in the EP, the irony of the cover photo that was taken was the front facing photo is all white and glowing and sparkly and beautiful, but behind is a shadow.
Mm,
And the shadow is the same photo. One side's the shadow, one side's the forward facing, but the shadow looks bent over and
mm,
crushed by the forward facing, right? And what I realized is that, yes, Sean L. Brown and all the other personas were actually created and evolved, but they cannot shine to their fullest potential until LaShawn is integrated.
mhm.
So
Exactly.
can you speak to what I'm saying and put professional terms on what I
Yeah.
just said?
Yeah. So what you're talking about is, one, you're talking a little bit about duality. You cannot have the light without the dark, right? And duality, if you think of your whole self standing with one foot in the dark and one foot in the light, and you're straddling that line. And if you're standing straight up, duality is you've got a handle on both, right? Because there's no walking, you can't be human and not have shadows, and you can't be human and not understand. Well, you could also not understand light, but in our world, you're going to have shadows. We're human beings. There's no such thing as not having pain or having any type of sh- negative, I guess, happen in your life.
Not possible to live the earthly experience
Yeah,
without challenges.
without challenges. Thank you. But what you're describing also is like, what you're saying is that little me is a huge part of what brings light to these versions of me. And what happens is, if we ignore little you, all the things that trigger you from that wounded version of little you will still continue to happen. And it's not this version of you that's responding, it's little you, and she's still like, hey, hey, let me in, let me in. This
Or
could,
let me out.
or
Let
let
me
me
out
out.
the
Yeah,
closet.
but is it let it out or let it in? Because it's really letting it into the heart, right? It's
Can you
letting
let
it
some love in so I can get out the closet?
exactly. Yeah. So it's like little her saying like, hey, we need to address this. Like, it can be anything, anything like attachment styles. If you have an anxious attachment style, oftentimes that's not this version of you. That's older versions that are like, hey, I don't like when we get left. I don't like when I'm not being loved. I don't like when someone leaves and
I
that
don't like
means
when
I'm by
I
myself.
don't feel competent. I don't
Exactly.
like when I'm not perfect. I don't like when I'm
Exactly.
late. I don't like when people think this about me. I don't.
Exactly.
All of those things are old
Exactly. So
versions.
those are all little hers who are trying to say, hey, we need to address this. I need to be seen. I need to be seen because I don't like the way this feels. And that's where this version of
Mhm.
you has to pick her up and says, okay, you can feel that way. That's valid. You're
Mhm.
valid. And I
It.
see you. I see you in
Yes.
that. But come on, you don't have to do this anymore. I've got us. I promise. I got us. You're not alone. I got you. And so
You
integrating that into one space. Yeah, which is,
It's
I like to
so
think of it as
good.
like your heart, the temple.
In 2000 and I want to say maybe 16, 17, I met a woman. Well, I didn't meet her. I already knew her, but she started down somatic training and healing, and she does trauma recovery yoga. So she was probably the first practitioner that I had. I had a nervous breakdown in a
Mhm.
very public forum. shockingly, I was triggered by a story.
Mm,
So it was the first time I think LaShawn was awakened in that moment.
we're done.
Yes. And it just so happens I was staying the night at my friend who was becoming a
Somatic
trauma
healer.
recovery yoga specialist,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So she took me out of the room, helped me to regain my breath. I mean, I lost my vision, got blurry. I couldn't breathe. It
Full
was
panic attack.
crazy. Yeah, full on. So she said, let's take you back to my house. Let's get you in your workout clothes and let's go do a trauma recovery yoga session. And we did. And I felt a lot better in that moment, but I knew that there was a lot of work ahead of me, and it was. And so what we did was because I lived in Southern California, she lived in Northern, we began to do trauma recovery yoga sessions virtually.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was really interesting in the first couple sessions. My body, when a certain memory would start to surface and I couldn't fight, flight, or flee,
Mm-hmm.
my physical body locked up. It literally, I was locked in,
Mm-hmm.
like stuck, like the Tin Man. I felt like, and I couldn't breathe. And she would have to talk me through and call me out and calm me down internally so that I could regain control of my own body. And what I realized, I was molested as a young girl very early. Those had to be belief systems and traumas were living in my tissues,
Mm-hmm.
so that when we started to work them through, they were so excruciating coming up, but little by little. And your practitioner is important because her gentle spirit, what I knew she was dealing with was me, little Shawnee, at
Mm-hmm.
probably 2, 3, and before. Then I had another practitioner who came, Nicole Romeo. She came here to the house. And I believe she dealt with the Shawnee in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was put up for adoption or left for 30 days after I was born while they decided what happened to me. So that's no skin to skin contact.
Oh,
There's no mother smell. So, can you please talk to me about pre-verbal trauma? Because we're coming up on the end, but I really want to get this in.
yeah.
Because parents, I need you to understand your little babies are being formed from the time the seed is in the womb. So, your pregnancy environment and experience is what your babies are drinking in, and it's forming their emotional regulation and the beginnings of their fascia.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about pre-verbal trauma and in the womb trauma.
So I mean, again, it comes back to the body, right? So, like you freezing and locking like that, that's also disassociation. But that's also,
Mhm.
once you say that it was like pre 3 years old, to me, that's like that was what your body was doing. So it was reliving that, and it had to feel that to start to move things to get out. But also in combination with disassociation, that can happen when we're disassociating and when you're reliving a trauma. But with the womb, um, I mean, everything like you can I highly suggest everyone ask their parents what was going on while within their parents' lives while in the womb. It's crazy how much just that alone forms characteristics within self now. I'll give you
Mhm.
a quick example of this. I think it was last year. I was getting ready to go to Ecuador and I was asking some questions and I've had this like weird like thing of like with my dad dying, like just random. Like I know he's gonna die, but like this weird obsession, like what if he dies today?
Mhm.
Like my whole life, and I couldn't explain it. And I was talking to my mom about something, and she was like, "Oh, I don't know what we are doing, but she said, did you know that your whole life, I've ever since you were, and ever since I found out we were having you, I've been afraid that your dad was going to die, and I wasn't going to know how to take care of you or what to do, and all this stuff." And I was like, "Oh, thank you. That's
Thank
where
you
that
for
comes from."
thank you for putting that into
Thank
my
you for
umbilical cord.
yeah. And then I literally sat there and I was like, "Okay, we need to let go of this. This isn't yours."
Mhm.
But that's just how like that's just a random thought that she had the majority of my birth. And then also I was asking how she handled stress. They were selling a company, they were doing a lot of things. And I was like, oh, is that a pretty like stressful, traumatic time for you? And she was like, no, it was pretty simple. I handle stress pretty well. And that's how I handle stress, is like,
Stress.
it's fine.
Got it. No
Whatever
worries.
happens, gonna happen. Yeah, I might freak
Mhm.
out a little bit, but those are just two examples of whatever's going on in the environment or whatever's going on in mom, and how mom's feeling is directly going into the nervous system of the child. And that's not even getting into the like the ancestral stuff that we were talking about, like the ancestral, I like to call it like ancestral DNA. I like to think of it as like an energetic DNA, like it's encoded in the body and in the subconscious when you come here. And I'll say really quick, even though all bad things can be transferred, all the good things can be transferred
Absolutely.
too.
It's both.
It's
The
both.
natural weed and the tear, right? Because God said,
Yeah.
no, I planted good seed, but the enemy came along and planted
This.
all his weeds
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like how do we heal that is one, honoring it, acknowledging it, and then starting to understand what's actually you and what's actually not. And then doing different modalities or different practices, therapies around releasing what that is. But
And
again,
it's not
it's
easy, correct? I just want to, because we're coming to the end of our time, and I want to affirm and help people understand this work's not easy, correct?
no, I would say I don't think you wake up one day and you're like, hey, I'm going to do shadow work today, or hey, I'm going to go heal my trauma. Um, but what I have learned is I've been into the depths of my soul. I've been into the depths of the darkness. And what I've learned is the greatest gifts I've ever found out about myself have been on the other side of the shadow, of sitting in my dark stuff, of really being, and I call it sometimes like the bathroom floor, where you're just laying on the bathroom floor, crying your eyes out, and leaning into that.
Yeah.
Um, it's really, truly, it's not easy, but on the other side of it is some of the most wild and beautiful things that you'll experience.
It's freedom.
It's
It's
freedom.
freedom for you. It's freedom for the people attached to you because then they can really know you. It's freedom for you to choose to live well because you have to choose to live well. You're not going to luck up on living well. It
No,
is a
and it's a
choice that
practice.
you make every day. It's
Exactly.
every single
It's
day.
a practice. It's like a prayer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's your work to do.
Exactly.
God worked in all the good things into you, but it's your job to work them out. The enemy has worked some things in too. So
Mhm.
now you and God together, as he leads you to the modalities and the people and the places for your treatment plan, trust him and follow him. Everywhere he has taken me has led me to the real me, and that includes Carlene. And I am so thankful. Carlene, I would love to have you come join us on my masterclass. Masterclass
Okay.
starts next week. So I really want to have the producers contact you
Okay.
and you set up for a masterclass, because when we really get into our hair is hair conversations,
Mhm.
and when we really talk about the impact of the transatlantic slave trade on African American people today, I think that you are a part of that conversation. Would you agree with me?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
Amen. Amen. So I don't want to run out of time without you telling the people where they can find you. Tell them.
You can find me. I'm on TikTok, Carlene Kanellis, Instagram. What else am I on? I'm on all platforms as Carlene Kanellis. My website is carlenekanellis.com. I'm on Facebook, and my email is carlene at carlenekanellis.com as well. So
So
everything
it's very simple.
is very
And
simple.
if you
Yeah.
can't, if you can't figure any of that stuff out, what you will do is you'll reach out to us and
Yes.
we will make sure that you get in touch with her. Plus, you're going to see her in the neighborhood. Plus, you're
Yep.
going to see her at our events, because this is about uniting and changing the world. And
Mhm.
how we unite and change the world is by first helping create healthy people who are completely and only themselves, not weighed down by traumas, traps, tricks, and triggers. So, Carlene, I want to thank you not just for being here today, I want to thank you for what you do. I
Thank you.
truly appreciate what you did for me. You made my leg feel longer, and now my right leg needs you.
Okay.
I think the right leg. You got the left leg.
That's
Now my
valuable.
right leg needs you. So I will be down there in Northern California very soon for some right leg transformation at the Healing Yurt. Is it a yurt?
Yeah, it's a yurt.
Yes, at the Healing Yurt. I will be there for some more inner child healing work. Thank you
Mhm.
for what you do. And family, Lessons from the Journey Live family, thank you for choosing to spend your Saturday, or if you're watching it on a replay or another day, thank you for investing your time right here with Lessons from the Journey Live. I'm Shawnell Brown, your host who loves you more than you can imagine. And you know what I'm going to tell you as I close, right? Go love yo life. See y'all next Saturday. Bye, family.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let's go. Get on your mark, let's go. What you waiting for? There's so much more. The future's yours. Let go, explore. It's yours for sure. Sing with me with fear. So to God I stay near. I keep my hand to the plow. There's no turning back now. My future look bleak. I decided to see. He said follow me.